Welcome back. A really smart person once said, sometimes I think it's less about being found and more about being willing to be found. If you're willing, and most importantly, open to being found, but haven't quite mastered the how, our next speaker has some great insight. Amy Masson is the co-owner of Sumi Designs, a web agency working with clients to design and build professional websites while also helping small business owners increase their online presence through SEO and digital marketing. Amy is excited to give you the ABCs of SEO. In this session, you'll learn the basics of search rankings, learn how to research keywords to plan and write your content, and discover tools to optimize your website for SEO and measure your results. Amy, take it away.
Thanks, Emma. Good to be here today. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Found Online Through SEO. This is a beginner SEO session where we'll go over the basics of search engine ranking, how it works, and how you can get started. And when we talk about SEO, what we're talking about is getting that free traffic to your website, meaning people go to a search engine, they type in some keywords, and hopefully find themselves at your website. Search engine optimization can be intimidating when you get started because there's so much to know. So today's presentation is really just going to scratch the surface so you have a basic understanding of how it works and how to get started. So you know a little about me. My name's Amy Masson. I've been making websites professionally for 15 years. I have a small web design agency called Sumi Designs, and I run that jointly with my sister. We primarily create and maintain WordPress websites for our clients, but we also help with SEO, digital marketing, reputation management, and a host of other things that our clients may need. But in my previous life, I was actually a middle school computer teacher. So I don't have a background in business or entrepreneurship. I didn't go to college for web development because that didn't exist in 1994. I am an accidental entrepreneur. I was a stay-at-home mom with a specialized skill set, and word got around. And my desire to help people and my love of technology combined, and now I get to help people grow their businesses. Here's an overview of what we're going to cover today. First, we'll talk about understanding the basics of SEO and how it works, as well as how to set realistic expectations for your SEO journey. What often happens is people expect to see big results immediately and then they quit when that doesn't happen. You need to know what results really look like and what your SEO efforts should look like. You also need to know how to find and evaluate keywords because guessing at keywords is a failing strategy. Trust me when I say that your own expertise in your field can lead you astray when it comes to choosing your keywords. And of course, the most important aspect of SEO, writing great content. You just won't rank without it. Now, I'll also provide you with real instructions on things you can do right away to optimize your website and show you how to evaluate if your SEO is actually working. And finally, I'll share information on other tools you can use to get better, because SEO is not a one and done strategy. It's something you're going to need to work on regularly. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you'll spend a few days optimizing your website and then see a surge in traffic immediately. SEO is never finished. You will rarely see results overnight. The search engines in your favor, bringing you that free traffic to your website. And there are a lot of factors that contribute to success. Some of these factors have a higher impact than others, but it's ultimately the collective effect of all your efforts that pays off, and not just one individual thing. Be wary of focusing your efforts on just one aspect or completely neglecting another. And before you get started with optimization, there are some questions you need to ask about your website. Can the search engines find it? Is there compelling content available that your users are looking for and that makes people want to share it? Are you using the keywords on your site that you want to be found for? Do you have a great user experience? If you can answer yes to all those questions, then you're on your way to great SEO. It's also important when you start your SEO journey that you set realistic expectations. One of the most common things I hear from people is that they've done all the things, optimized all the pages, and then nothing happened. I had one person call me in tears because their boss was mad at them for not getting SEO results. And when I asked how long they'd been working at SEO, they sadly said just 1 month. So it's important to go into this journey knowing that not only will you probably not see results the first day or first week, sometimes it can take many months to start seeing results. And even then, when you see results, It's more than likely going to be small, incremental changes and not a giant shift. SEO isn't an overnight fix. It's a long haul solution for getting found by people who are searching for what you offer. Now take a look at this real example from SEO we performed for one of our clients. This is a chart that shows their monthly organic website traffic. Organic traffic means only visitors who landed on the site after a search query. You can see where they were before we started, with pretty much the same amount of traffic every month. Now we started our SEO plan in February 2020, and we didn't really start to see an increase in organic traffic for about 3 months. And even then, when we did, it was very incremental, just small gains each month. It wasn't until a solid 8 months after we started that we saw significant increases in organic search traffic. If you're looking to get more traffic today, the only surefire way to do that is through paid advertising, and that is a different presentation. SEO is great because it's free traffic, but only in the sense that you aren't paying for clicks. It takes time and effort to make SEO work. Now, a lot of folks will be quick to tell you that everything changes so rapidly in SEO that you just can't possibly keep up. But that's a myth. Yes, Google's AI changes all the time, but usually just small changes that help it meet the goal of serving up the best results for users, with just a handful of bigger changes each year. But even with that, there are some things that never change. There is no SEO magic bullet. SEO success looks a lot like hard work. It will always take time and effort to see improvement. There really is no quick fix. Content is king. Your content needs to be written for the people who will be reading it with the answers they're looking for. The best SEO comes from well-written content that shows your expertise and authority. User experience is so important. If your users can't navigate your site on a computer, a tablet, a phone, then neither can Google. Creating difficult to navigate websites that aren't intuitive won't help you with SEO. Being fancy just to be fancy, that doesn't help with SEO. Everything you put on a website should be put there with intent and strategy. And then your keywords need to be relevant to the products and services on the page. You'll never rank a site for keywords that are unrelated to what you offer. To understand SEO, you really have to understand what Google wants and what your customers want, and then put those two things together. So let's talk about what Google wants, because they make the rules. Now I say Google in place of more generic search engine terms because Google has over 90% of the market share when it comes to search. If you focus on what Google wants, the other search engines are going to be happy too. Google's goal for searches is to provide users with the best answers to their questions. Therefore, the sites that have the best answers get pushed to the top. So the best place to start with SEO is with your keywords and content. Now, if you ask 10 different people who do SEO to tell you how to find keywords, you will likely get 10 different answers. There are many different paths to SEO success. And since this is SEO basics, I want to start with a simple process you can use to get started with your own keyword research. You're going to start with brainstorming. You can do this by yourself or get some colleagues or employees to help, anybody involved in your business. Just make a list of keywords, both broad and long tail. Now, long tail just means more than 2 words. Keywords that you think you'd like to get found for. As many as you can, just make a list. And I like to put them into a spreadsheet because I'm kind of a nerd like that. One mistake people make when doing SEO is picking just one keyword for their entire site and then focusing all their efforts on that one keyword. Your site can and should be found for many different keywords. Okay, now that you've made your list, go to Google and one by one, type in each keyword phrase and look at the results you see. Are the results you see relevant to what you offer? Do you see your competitors in that list? If not, that keyword might not be a good option. If Google doesn't think your keyword is a good query for sites like yours, you might be targeting the wrong keyword. So let me share a story here of one of my own SEO mistakes. My company makes a lot of websites, but one of our biggest demographics are writers and authors. And because of that, I wanted to optimize my website for writers. So I created a whole page focusing on the keyword websites for writers. I wrote great content, I optimized everything, and I waited, and nothing happened. I got no new traffic, I got no new inquiries, I was never found for that keyword. Finally, I Googled my keyword, which was websites for writers, And what I discovered was that the search results showed websites that were resources for writers. So, like websites for better grammar and tips for writing, and not web design and development for writers. What I found out was that my keyword wasn't the right match for my content. I was targeting the wrong keyword. And if Google doesn't think your website is the right result for that keyword, you will never show up, no matter how much you optimize. Use this search as an early elimination strategy and remove keywords that don't show similar results when you Google them. Now it's time to actually research your keywords. You may feel like you nailed it with steps 1 and 2 and you don't have to go any further, but that's a mistake. That's what I did. So let me ask you this. Have you ever gone to Google and typed in a phrase and gotten 0 results? No. Google will almost always serve up a result. But that doesn't mean anybody's actually searching using that keyword phrase, or that you can realistically rank for it if they are. I've had people come to me to proudly show me when they Google their keyword, they come up number 1. Woohoo, number 1. But number 1 for a search that nobody's using isn't really that useful. We need to know if people are actually using the keyword phrase for it to be worthwhile. Keyword research is a necessary aspect to choosing keywords. Otherwise, you don't know if your keyword's being used in searches and you don't know how competitive it is. To perform keyword research, you will need some data tools. Most of these are not free. People who do SEO for their job pay for SEO tools, and that lets them research keywords and get all this data. Examples are Moz, SpyFu, SEMrush, and KW Finder. Now, I understand that these tools can be expensive, and when you're trying to get started on your own SEO, that's a lot. The good news is most of these tools have free trials, so you can test them out and find out which one you like best. Now today, I'm just going to walk through how to use a tool called KW Finder. However, most of these tools will offer up the same type of results with the same type of data. So I definitely encourage you to try out a few and see which one you like best. So here's how it works. You type in your keyword phrase from your brainstorm list. And then if you're only offering services in one geographic area, enter that area. Then you'll get results that look like this. As you can see, I typed in kitchen remodeling as my keyword and Chicago as my location. The 2 things you really want to pay attention to are search volume and keyword difficulty. The search volume is the average number of searches that are being performed for that keyword every month. By default, KW Finder is going to show you an average of 12 months of searches. And this is important because many searches are seasonal, and doing your keyword research in the off season could lead you to some false assumptions if you don't see what the average is. Now, the other number you want to pay attention to is keyword difficulty, which is just how hard it would be to actually get ranked for that keyword. If your keywords are too competitive, you're probably not going to be able to rank for them. Imagine trying to go head-to-head with Amazon for the number 1 spot. You're not going to win that battle. So from this example, you can see that I chose kitchen remodeling as my keyword, and the search volume is 830, meaning an average of 830 searches are performed in Chicago each month for that keyword. And the keyword difficulty is 20, which is a nice low score. And I like how KW Finder color codes the difficulty level so you can quickly tell if it's a good keyword. The higher the number, the more difficult it's going to be to rank for that keyword. You can see it also gives me some related keywords and their data too. The second option in the list it shows me is kitchen remodel cost, which has both less searches and is more competitive. So it's not as good of a keyword. Now you'll want to put all of your keywords from your brainstorm list into whatever keyword research tool you use and see what the search volume is and what the keyword difficulty is. And if you're a nerd like me, and made a spreadsheet, then go ahead and take that data and put it in your sheet. And while you're looking at choices, you can see alternatives that actually may work better than your original choices. Now comes the part where you need to pick which keywords you want to optimize your site for. And here's a tidbit that you may not realize. You should really only optimize each page of your site for 1 keyword or keyword phrase. 1 keyword per page. The keyword should be relevant to the content that's on that page. So here's where that spreadsheet I recommended comes in handy. You can see all your data about your keywords that you've researched, and now you can coordinate each keyword with a relevant page on your site. Not every page will be ideal for optimizing for a keyword. You can't optimize your privacy policy for one of your contracting keywords. That's not going to work. Some pages just won't have keywords, and that's okay too. So now you're going to choose which keyword goes with which page on your site, so you can make sure that your keyword is being used properly on the page within your content. Now, the part that most business owners struggle with is writing great content. And without really great content, your website is probably not going to rank very well. What this means is that you need to have content on every page of your website. It needs to be relevant to your products and services, and it needs to showcase you as an authority in your industry. It should answer all your users' questions. Writing content is going to be harder than you think and take longer than you think. Most business owners get stuck when it comes to writing about their own business. So here are some tips. When you're writing your content on each page, be sure to answer these questions. What do you sell or offer? What's special about it? Why should someone buy from or hire you instead of your competitors? What's your unique selling proposition? And why are you the best? Give them the answers to all of their questions. Never be afraid to share your knowledge, because that's what builds trust with your site visitor. My last piece of advice when it comes to content is to get it good and get it done. Don't agonize over every word. You aren't printing this onto thousands of flyers. This is a website that can and should change over time. So here are some things you need to know about your content in order for it to be well optimized for your keywords. And let's start with key phrase density. Key phrase density is the number of times your focus key phrase occurs in your copy compared to the total text of that page. So if you have a text that's 100 words and 5 of those are your focus key phrase, then your key phrase density is 5%. Ideally, your key phrase density should land somewhere between 0.5% and 3%. Less than 0.5% is not enough for the search engines to recognize what your page is about, and more than 3% looks spammy and like you're trying to game the system. You definitely need to pay attention to how frequently you use your keyword on the page. You'd really be surprised how many people tell me they aren't getting found for their keywords, and it turns out they never actually use the keyword on the page. So let's say you have a contracting business and you're optimizing content for that page on your site about kitchen remodeling, and your key phrase is kitchen remodeling. If you have 500 words on the page, you would want to use your keyword phrase between 2 and 15 times within the content, with one of those times being early within the first sentence and once in the page title. Additionally, it's really hard to convince Google that your content is the right answer if it's too thin. At a minimum, you need 300 words, and that's bottom line minimum. 500's better, and over 1,000's best. Now, you might think that's overkill, but have you ever been on a recipe website and had to scroll through the blogger's life story just to get to the recipe? That's because these bloggers understand that being ranked for their content is going to take more than a recipe and an introduction. So this brings me to my next piece of advice. Write content for people, not search engines. You can optimize your content so that it meets what the search engines are looking for, but if it's not useful for people, then it's not useful for search engines. Focus on the acronym of EAT. You want your content to show your expertise, your authority, and create trust for your visitors. Now, I said earlier that you can really only optimize one page for one keyword. So if you have 10 pages, then you probably have 10 keyword choices. But here's my advice to everyone who has a website and wants to get more traffic using more keywords. Start a blog. Every blog post you write holds another keyword opportunity for you. And companies who blog get 97% more links to their website. So let's talk about links for a minute, and specifically backlinks, because backlinks are important to getting your site ranked. A backlink is just when another website links to your website. This is a ranking factor because Google knows that if a lot of people are linking to your website, then it probably indicates that your website is a reputable source of information. It's a trust factor. But getting backlinks is hard, and the best way to get them is to write content that people want to link to. By writing more quality content on your site, you're giving people more content to link to. If more people are linking to your site, then you're going to get more traffic. And if more people are visiting your site, Google is going to see that too, and it can affect your rank. So this is a real screenshot of 10 years of analytics data for a company. And after seeing a presentation about blogging for business, the company owners decided they should start blogging regularly. Now, can you look and tell me when the blogging started? Is blogging going to be a magic bullet? No, remember there is no magic bullet. You can't focus your efforts on just one thing, but adding fresh, new quality content for your website on a consistent basis is one of the best things you can do for SEO. However, adding a blog and not writing any blog posts will not help you at all. Has anyone out there had success adding a blog to your business website? If so, drop a link in the chat so we can all check it out. Now we're to the point that you've chosen your keywords and written your content. How do you put it all together to make it work for you? This is where it can start to get a little technical, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. On-page optimization is the process of optimizing what's on the page for search engines. You're going to start the process by using your keyword in your title, and that's your H1 or your heading 1, and within the first paragraph, preferably the first sentence if you can. Keep in mind your key phrase density and use the keyword the appropriate amount of times on the page. If you have a longer amount of content, you can also add the keyword into subheadings. Those are your H2s and H3s. However, it's important that your keyword use makes sense. You don't want to just stick it in there willy-nilly because the search engines need it on the page. It needs to flow and fit appropriately within the content of the page. Another component that helps your SEO is optimizing your images for your keyword. Photos and graphics visually support the content on the page. It's one of those little extra factors that help the search engine understand what your page is about. However, when you upload a photo right from your phone or camera, it'll have an ugly name like img100.jpg. And when Google reads that in your code, it doesn't add any value to the page. It gives no insight into what that image is. It doesn't support the content on the page at all. But you can rename your image using your keywords before you upload them, and when Google reads the code for that page, it will see your keyword in your image names. And then, after you upload your images to the site, you can add alt text to your images that use your keyword. Alt text is short for alternative text, and this is what a screen reader would read to a user who can't see the images. It doesn't appear on the page, but it's in your page's source code. Google uses this data to help it understand what's on your page because the photos and images are visually supporting that content. If you have a photo of a remodeled kitchen on your kitchen remodeling page, then it would be good to give it alt text that describes the photo while also using your keyword. Now, if you look at my example, I put beautiful kitchen remodeling project as my alt text, which both describes the image and uses my keyword. One caveat, don't just type your keyword as the alt text. The alt text should describe the image because that's its purpose. Another thing you can optimize is your permalink, also known as your page URL or page slug. So my kitchen remodeling example, instead of having the URL be something like businessname.com/new page, I can change it to be businessname.com/kitchen remodeling, which actually uses the keyword I'm trying to target. This is just another little supportive technique to help Google understand what your page is about. Google can see now that your URL matches your page title, which matches your image titles, which matches the keywords in the content. Doing just one of those things won't make a difference, but it's all of these together that makes a big impact. Now, I mentioned backlinks previously, but internal links, links that link to other pages within your site, those are good too. If you're writing content and you see a good place to add a link to another page, definitely add a text link. People understand how links work. You don't need to tell them to click on it, especially if it's obvious that it's a link. If your link is using your keyword, that's another indicator to Google telling them what the page at the end of that link is all about. And the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to on-page optimization is your metadata. A meta title and a meta description are what people see in the search results for a website after they're performing a search. They don't see this on your website, they see it before they click on a result in Google. Now for my example, I typed in kitchen remodeling and I took a screenshot of the results I saw in Google. This is before I clicked on anything. If you don't tell the search engines what to show here, they'll pick their own data to display. Usually just the title of the page for your meta title and the first 155 characters of your content for your description. Now this could work, but you can usually do better writing it on your own. So here are the key components of really good metadata. Use your keyword in both your title and description. The earlier in the description, the better, if possible. Stay within your character limits, 60 characters for the meta title and 155 for the description. Anything longer will get cut off. And if you look at the second result in my screenshot, you'll see that it's getting cut off and the other two are not. And then make it say something that inspires the users to want to click on it. If Google sees that your listing is getting a lot of clicks, it will think that your website is a good answer for that query, which will affect your rank. Alternately, if your website isn't getting clicks, then that signals to Google that your website may not be a good result, and that can adversely affect your rank. Technical SEO is simply the process of making sure your website is doing all the stuff that Google wants it to do to be a quality website. Now, I won't be able to go into a lot of details today about how to achieve all these things, but the main things you want to ask yourself are these 4 questions. Is it fast? Your website should load quickly, preferably in under 2 seconds. If it's taking longer than that, or even up to 8 seconds or more, you need to do some quick evaluations and figure out what the heck is going on. Google does use page speed as a ranking factor. Is it secure? Are you using an SSL certificate to get the browser lock on your website? It should be. This is also a ranking factor. Is it mobile friendly? Does it adjust size depending on the device someone's using? Google indexes mobile first, and if you don't have a mobile-friendly website, you're in trouble, and your competitors who do have responsive sites are going to rank better than you. And finally, does it have an XML sitemap? This is a special roadmap of all your pages and posts, specifically for the search engines. Having one that Google can find will make your site's content easier to index. Now, one more thing I want to recommend that you set up today, if you haven't done this already, is to claim your Google My Business listing. So start by Googling your business name to see if you have a listing already. If you do, you can claim it by verifying some business information. Now, once you've verified, you can add in your business info, photos, logos, website links, hours, etc. Having a more robust knowledge graph is going to result in more clicks, and it shows you're an active, reliable business. Claiming your listing is free. It doesn't take very long, so I would definitely recommend that you do that and do it today. Now, the last step in this process is to try to figure out if what you're doing is actually working. So you'll need to choose some metrics for measuring success. Do not Google your own keywords and see where you land in the results. That is not a good measure. Instead, you'll want to come up with some metrics to measure success. One way is to watch for an increase in traffic, which you can track in Google Analytics. Google Analytics will give you data about how many people are coming to your site, how they're interacting with it, such as which pages they're visiting, how long they're staying on your site. Another metric may be if you're getting more clicks on your search terms, and you can find this data by using a tool called Google Search Console. From that dashboard, you can see exactly which keyword phrases are bringing up your site in the search results and how many times people are clicking on it. Other metrics you can use to measure results are you getting more form submissions? Are you getting more phone calls, more inquiries, more sales? Are you seeing an increase in any of those areas? So it's really important to look for measurable ways to evaluate your progress and not just what you see when you Google your keywords. When it comes to SEO, it's a project that has a beginning but no end. You'll need to continue to work at it if you want to be successful. And keep in mind that what people are searching for may change over time, and you may need to re-optimize for different keywords at some point. Writing great, authoritative content is one of the most important parts of your website, both from a user experience aspect and from an SEO perspective. Never guess at keywords. You need to know people are using the keywords that you want to rank for. Optimize each page of your website for a different keyword, and finally, create a plan to evaluate if your SEO is working. And on this slide, I've got some resources that you can use to help you when you're getting started with your SEO journey. GoDaddy has some great guides on SEO for business and an introduction to SEO. There's also a link to my blog where I talk about how links help your SEO, both backlinks and internal links and outbound links. And then another GoDaddy community area where they talk about learning SEO basics. And that's all I have for today on SEO. I hope you've been able to find a few takeaways to help you get started on your own SEO journey.